Dr. Suresh sir, now we are live now, sir.
Thank you very much. Welcome and good evening all. We are in the 13th module of the AI in healthcare. And today we have very interesting topic, that is bias, which was very well introduced, the teaser by both Professor Purvish, Parikh and Professor Raghunadharao sir. To take this session, I now hand over it to Dr. Purvish Parikh. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Suresh. Thank you very much, National Board of Examinations, for giving me this opportunity. And I will straight away go to discuss about bias in healthcare and artificial intelligence. So this is a very important article that was published in February of 2024. And this article was about cancer misinformation on social media. Okay. And what does it say? I'll just share one sentence. Substantial risk of misinformation and inaccurate information, especially about cancer. And on the left side, you can see that this article has been authored by several luminaries from United States, from New York to Chicago and Detroit, Michigan. Some of you who are on social media must have also seen this about ChatGPT. On the left side, it says ChatGPT is unbelievably dangerous. And on the right side, it says that ChatGPT's new health tool failed more than half, 52% of life-threatening emergency tests in recent study. So clearly, there is ample evidence that bias in healthcare is existing, as well as that it is very dangerous. So medical information presented by chatbots are inaccurate and incomplete. And here this other study that was published just a few days ago, this was on 15th April 2026. And this also confirmed that nearly half, 49.6% of responses from AI chatbots were problematic. This is the CEO of NVIDIA. Everybody knows it. He is one of the richest persons on earth. His net worth a few months ago was 164 billion US dollars. And when he makes a statement about artificial intelligence, we have to pay attention to it. Here it says that AI will cause harm, but it is worth it. So the question is it worth it for him? Is it worth it for us? What is its value or harm in terms of patient management? And here is Dr. Atul Gawande, a very renowned physician from USA. He's been the president's physician as well. And he says that artificial intelligence has already dramatically changed our lives. Doctors not using AI may end up getting replaced. So on the one hand, there is a potential, and on the other hand, there is the problem and wrong information that is generated by artificial intelligence. So ChatGPT was, brought to the general population in 2023, and very quickly we published this article about what was the perception of healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, students about ChatGPT, and I would refer this to you as much as possible. Now, let me take one of the biggest failure examples, and we know that IBM Watson was a disaster when it first came. IBM Watson was touted as the best software for oncology after sliced bread. And this was trained by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center stalwarts. And then it was bought by MD Anderson Cancer Center. IBM was given $39 million for this purchase. And PricewaterhouseCoopers, which was the project manager for this, received $21 million. Now, this does not include the hours of internal training, but at the end of 1 year, MD Anderson Cancer Center threw this software out of the window. And the reason was that there was integration failure with their electronic health records. There was serious difficulty with medical language. There was a narrow scope, and there was financial strain as compared to the scope of this use of this software. And the main reason, when we do a root cause analysis, the main reason we find is that This was trained by MSKCC, and they trained it only with their own data, with their own protocols. They did not take into consideration the global picture. And as a result, this was a total failure. So this was the biggest example of bias in artificial intelligence leading to early failure. So now we come to this, and I'm sure that you would have guessed what this is. This is a cartoon for explaining to you what is a search engine trap. Okay, search engine trap. And this search engine trap is what both us doctors as well as patients have to be extremely wary about. So let us look at the left side. You can see I'm not taking a medical exam, I'm taking a very general example. On Meta AI, I said Shubh Prabhat. And then Meta AI had to think and think and think till it ultimately required a hint from my side. So if you see on the left hand side, I gave the prompt at 7:50, and finally at 7:57, I asked what is the good morning in Hindi, and that's when I realized, that's when the Meta AI realized that this was Shubh Prabhat. So this is the sort of gap that can happen when an AI is not trained in your context or in your language. And why I'm showing this to you is I will show the next one, which is a large language model that has been generated from India itself. Okay. This large language model is Indus by Shravam. And on the right side, you can see the screenshot of my phone. I use this on a regular basis. This is a LLM that has been developed in India. And you can see on the left side when I said Shubh Prabhat, it took only 2 seconds for this to identify what is the meaning of Shubh Prabhat and give me a response. So compare these 2 seconds to more than 7 minutes on Meta AI, and even after 7 minutes, it required a hint from my side. And there are several other large language models that are available from India. Not only Sarvam, but Jani and Bharatjan are also there. So we should be really proud that we have possibility of using our own large language models, which are very relevant to the Indian context. We also have what is called as Bharat Cancer Genome Grid, which is a national initiative from IIT Madras. Now to take this further, I'm showing you the screenshots of an app that I have developed myself. Okay. I am not a coder. I am not a computer scientist. I am a simple doctor like you, all of you are. But with the help of AI, I was able to generate this, and this is available for me to use while simply using Claude AI and Lovable. And this has two fronts. One is with the patient, as I've shown on the left hand side, and on the right hand side is what doctor responds. So this is a platform that puts together patients and doctors while making sure that it is HIPAA compliant and confidentiality is maintained. Now let us take a step back and see where is AI as far as the world is concerned. And this is not what I'm saying, this is what Stanford has said. And it says that India is surged to be the third in global AI vibrancy. And these are the points on your right hand side as to why it is so. And recently there was an AI summit in New Delhi, and several stalwarts, including Sam Altman from OpenAI, were there. And this is what Sam Altman said in his talk, that made in India AI models are very impressive, and Silicon Valley must learn speed from how AI is developing in India. Now, this is how we have actually put practical applications of AI in the Indian context. On the left side, you can see that the control center is at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi. And on the right hand side, you can see that a person is in the India's Antarctic station, which is from on the southern hemisphere. And the distance between the two is 13,000 kilometers. Yet, the doctors in AI in Delhi are able to use AI to do a robotic ultrasound across the Atlantic. And this is, I think, a great achievement. Now let me take to you some examples of how you can use and how can you have problems while using AI in a day-to-day context. So this is an example of Gemini. I said, can you create an image of twins, one vaccinated and safe, and the other not vaccinated and body covered with smallpox vesicles. So the answer was, I cannot create an image depicting an unvaccinated individual covered in smallpox vesicles. So when I asked why, it says I cannot generate this image because it involves depicting a graphic medical condition and distress, which falls under my safety guidelines regarding sensitivity and disturbing content. So this is all very good. And I appreciate that Gemini is doing that. But then I went to Meta AI and asked it to do the same thing. And it says, oops, I cannot generate the image. The system is blocked because I'm showing a medical condition of a child. So I said, okay, instead of a child, show two adults. And here also it says, sorry, it is blocked. But this is Meta AI and Gemini. Then I asked Meta AI to generate an infographic and it made a hash out of it. And you can clearly see that the labeling under the image is absolutely incorrect. Then I went to Grok and I put the same prop. Can you generate this image? And it says here is the generated image at the bottom, but you say above it says we can't generate this image because it didn't pass moderation. But I told them I'm a doctor, I need the image to teach medical students, and lo and behold, it provided me this image. So there are ways that AI has been taught to maintain discipline and prevent things from being developed, which could be misused, but then there are ways around it. And then when I asked ChatGPT to do it, see, on the left side, it has clearly made an image, but suddenly after that, it realized that it has done something which is not intended to do. And then it says, we are so sorry, but the image we created may violate our guardrails allowing acceptable depictions of teen and child. And then I went to DeepSeek and I asked them to do it. So it generated a prompt, but it did not generate an image. And it said, you put this prompt in Adobe Firefly to generate the image. And when I did that, I got this wonderful image. So what I'm trying to show you is that all AI platforms are not the same. There are several safeguards against misuse, but there are ways in which people can walk around the obstacles and still generate what they intended to generate by using these AI tools. But truth is stranger than fiction. All of the images earlier that I showed you were from AI, but this is a real live case of two twins, one vaccinated, one not. And the one that was not vaccinated has had severe smallpox. Of course, this is a very, very old image. Now let's go to something else. And on the right side, I'm highlighting the date so that you know this was just a few days ago on 17th April 2026. And what I've used here is Microsoft Copilot. So I said that there is a famous statement that in India, most people are suffering from mitral stenosis or pulmonary tuberculosis. And this has been attributed to Sir Thomas Lewis. Now, why I was stressing the fact that this search was done on 17th April, 3 days ago, is because Sir Thomas Lewis was living from 1881 to 1945. In other words, he was alive before the computer era, before India's independence. Still, current AI, Microsoft Copilot, still has that colonial mindset, wrong information out there. So then it also said that India still has 26% of world's total tuberculosis burden, which is 2.8 million new cases. So I questioned this AI and I said, no, this is wrong. You know, India did not suffer from tuberculosis and mitral stenosis. This is because the red strains of people spitting were not of blood, but because it was betel nut and leaves. And Raghu is here. He received the BC Roy Award. And you can see BC Roy was alive and well in India from 1882 to 1962. So then Microsoft Copilot understood that yes, you are right. This is a fascinating clarification. It really changes how we interpret Lewis's remark. So, in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is we can train the AI to remove the bias And here the AI is able to accept that they had a bias and that now they will try and change the AI bias, which was occurring because of cultural misunderstanding and bias in colonial medicines. So I would like to congratulate these 5 stalwarts from India, Dr. R.G. Kar, Dr. B.C. Roy, Dr. M. Vishwanathan, Dr. U.N. Brahmbhatt, and Dr. Sushila Nair, who from 1890s to 1947 till we got our independence, they were the pioneers to remove the bias because of colonial era from India. Now, I would like to say how the colonial misconception narrative has to be changed from a racial weakness to focus on social determination, from stigma to science, and from colonial neglect to national responsibility. So let us look at certain biases here also. So this is a racial or ethnic bias. If there are two patients who complain of pain, in USA, the white skin patient will be taken at face value, and you can see that he will get two medicines. One is weak painkiller and one is strong painkiller. If the same complaint is made by a black person, then they are not taken at face value and they will only get the weak painkillers. So this is an example of racial or ethnic bias. This is an example of gender bias. If you look at artificial intelligence, then there is bias against women. They are underdiagnosed for women's pain. Their cardiovascular issues are missed because they are supposed to be protected by hormones, and therefore there's a delay in diagnosis of their condition. In a similar way, there is a bias against men, especially about mental health as well as over osteoporosis or depression. Now, skin, I mentioned about dark and light skin, that could in fact cause bias while evaluating skin lesions. So, in light skinned individuals, there is a high accuracy because these are the images that have been used to train the artificial intelligence, and therefore it is accurate. However, there are very few images from dark skinned individuals who were used to train, they were unrepresented in the training data, and therefore the diagnosis is often missed. Let me take a real example, and I'm showing a photograph of a person, but I can tell you that this is my photograph and I have my own permission to show it to you. So I took a photograph of the lesions on my face and asked, what are these spots on my skin? So Jaimina said that based on this photograph, these brown spots appear to be seborrheic keratosis or solar lentiginous, which are often called age spots or liver spots. But there was something hidden which AI could not identify in this photograph. So what I did was I raised my hair, and lo and behold, you can see that there is a dark and a large pigmentation in my hair. And when I uploaded this photograph, now it says this larger dark patch needs more evaluation by a professional. And these, while they may be non-cancerous or benign, they have to be evaluated for change over time, etc., etc. So you can see that it's a very simple thing that could change how AI interprets between benign spots and something which is larger and which needs further evaluation. Now I shift to something which is about immuno-oncology drugs, and these are very expensive medicines, and there is a bias against specific fixed drug dose combinations that are used in treating patients. So I asked the AI, why do pharma companies move from dose per kilogram to fixed doses in immunotherapy for cancer? And you can see that it showed some very superficial main reasons for shifting: pharmacokinetic evidence, simplification of clinical practice, reduced drug wastage, and patient convenience. So I said, this is not true. You are actually hiding the main truth. The truth is that fixed doses cause overdose of ancient patients by as much as 33%. And obviously, side effects will be more. It underdoses obese patients. And I had specifically asked the AI to make an image of an obese Western patient, but it still made the image with a brown skinned person. So I asked them, please change that. And this particular software did not change it. But then I went to some other AI, and you can see this obese Western patient should be shown with white skin and blonde hair. And the sentence, while pharma profits increase, font size should be increased. So this is how I was trying to train the AI to remove the bias and show the information. And you can see that it took 44 minutes for this AI tool, but still it was not giving me the answer. So I got tired of this and moved to the next one. Okay. So Microsoft Copilot, which I was working with, after 87 minutes, I said I give up and let's move on to something else. So I went to Gemini, and lo and behold, Gemini answered what I intended to do. So now you have a white skinned, blonde, obese person shown in the middle. So you can see how bias exists not only with one AI tool, but as compared to another AI tool, it will be either more or less. Now, trade-offs and controversies I was referring to as far as the cost of the drug is concerned, and you can clearly see that if it was not fixed, those combination, or it was given as a weight base, then 2.29 billion US dollars could be saved by the patient. So this is how bias in AI can be challenged, and we can get the right answer. Then I asked, what is the evidence of using low dose immunotherapy in cancer management? And you can see that it is showing the data from South Asian Journal of Cancer. And I'm proud to say that I'm the emeritus editor and founder of this journal. And it clearly shows that this publication was coming from Tata Memorial Center, and it showed a very, very impressive benefit. If you look at the South Asian issue of the Lancet for regional healthcare, you see this photograph on the most recent publication. And this is a painting done by Dr. John Prabhakar Raju Lingala, who is a student of radiation oncology at CMC Vellore. So even in the era of AI, talent, true talent of humans is of immense value. Now this cover page refers to this article that was published a few days ago. Low dose nivolumab with neoadjuvant chemotherapy and oral metronomic therapy in borderline resectable oral cavities squamous cell carcinoma. And you can see that there was a editorial written on this by a couple of doctors from Ireland, who said that the key takeaway is that this low dose immune checkpoint inhibitors are not ready to be used in the general population. And I think this is a very, very important bias that I'm trying to show you. So if you look at the PubMed, and I put you can see the Patrick Forde is the first author of this editorial, and I asked how many articles has he has written in PubMed, and there were 200 articles. Then I asked how many articles with his name and immunotherapy. There were 121 articles. And then I said, how many are with low dose immunotherapy? And it was 0 articles. So this person is commenting on something where he has not a single publication. He has absolutely no information, no idea what is going on. And this is a systematic bias by the Western population against the third world countries. If you look at low dose immunotherapy without that name of the author of that editorial, you can see that there are 4,697 articles in PubMed. So clearly there is ample publication and evidence of low dose immunotherapy. In fact, my dear friend David Kerr from Oxford University has been very vocal about this, and he has given interviews. He has his videos are on YouTube, and he has published also about lower dose immunotherapy providing more equitable global access. So this is the clinical impact and economy value of trial findings in Journal of Clinical Oncology. On the left side is the standard dose. On the right side is the low dose that has been published from the third world countries or from the global south. The standard dose is 240 milligrams, whereas the low dose is 20 milligrams. Now you can imagine 20 milligrams versus 240 milligrams. The frequency is the same every 2 weeks. The 1 year survival as far as the standard dose data is not available, but we have in the low dose the data of 27.3% 1 year survival as opposed to 16.9% with chemotherapy alone. And what is the cost? On the left side, the high dose is 5,000 US dollars every month, whereas the low dose is about 200 US dollars every month. So this is the big difference, and this is why the pharma is trying to hide these facts. This low dose therapy has gained significant traction through the DEL 2 phase 3 trial results from Tata Hospital in India. It has been integrated in the national adoption guidelines from India. It has been highlighted by European Society of Medical Oncology because it improves overall survival. But NCCN and ASCO are biased, and therefore there is no change in their guidelines, even though ASCO Post has formally recognized the DEL 2 trial data. So this is systematic bias against the global south. Our world has changed dramatically since 5th February 2026 when Cloud Opus 4.6 and GPT 5.3 codex came into the system. You can see that this 8-year-old Sikh gentleman was an invited speaker at the AI summit in Delhi a few weeks ago. Imagine, and here he is with the two most powerful people in AI in the world. Two most powerful people. So this is what is India's capabilities today. And I therefore return to the the slide that I had previously shown. Dr. Atul Gawande saying doctors not using AI may end up getting replaced. But I have to modify this a little better. Doctors should use AI, but be very aware of the bias that Western trained AI is doing. And we are better placed to use the large language models that are developed from India itself. So now we have a new acronym called the idiot syndrome. Originally, the word idiot is derived from a private individual who did not participate in politics or public life. And therefore, we say idiot is a person who did not vote. Now, the acronym idiot is Internet Derived Information Obstructing Treatment. And this is what will be happening more and more with patients who are internet savvy and who are using AI before they come to us. So we have to work together. We have to navigate the health information together. And we have to provide them a guide on how they can use the internet to partner their care. We can tell them that if you look at NCCN guidelines, these guidelines are separate for patients, as I've shown on the left hand side, and for healthcare professionals, as I've shown on the right hand side. Here you can see that Meta AI is saying that testing is for DPT deficiency is necessary, whereas the European Medical Agency, the formal authority, is saying this is not required. So there is a discrepancy and bias among AI. When I tested for BRCA Exchange, I asked Gemini about it, and it says you cannot download the BRCA Exchange as it's a web portal and it is not available as an app. But actually, an app is available clearly, BRCA Exchange mobile app, as you can see here. So this is another classic example of bias in AI. Now, this is a little dated slide. This is what I had done on 22nd of February 2023. And this was about a specific mutation in the breast cancer 1 and 2 gene. And this mutation that is highlighted on the top left hand side, C5096G2A, was labeled as variation of unknown significance. Now, VUS or variation on unknown significance means we don't know whether this is really directly related or causing the cancer. And this is what ChatGPT showed. But on that same day, if you go to BRCA Exchange, there is clear evidence that this is a pathogenic mutation. The last row on the bottom, it shows the same mutation. And on the right side, the red arrow shows that it is pathogenic. So this is a very big bias or a misinformation that ChatGPT was providing, and this patient would be treated wrongly on the basis of that. Another example is pharmacogenomic variations. What are the genetic mutations in US or other parts of the world may not be the same in India. I was an author of a very large international publication of using gefitinib in lung cancer. Okay. and this was the first publication that happened in before in 1998. And you can see that the incidence of the EGFR mutations across the world is different. In the USA, it is only 5%. In India, it is between 25 and 40%. And on the right, you can see that in some countries like Japan and Philippines, it has high as 52%. And this was published by us in the Indian Journal of Cancer. So ctDNA training population differences are also there. Any mutation, unless the AI has been trained from data and mutations from that own population, we cannot interpret what it is in our context. So on the left side is the Caucasian population or population in the United States, and we cannot interpret that when we are looking at the Indian population. So misclassification bias, as I was mentioned, is here. It causes delayed correct diagnosis, inefficient resource utilization, and the ctDNA signal was misinterpreted as coming from the liver when it actually was either lung cancer or breast cancer. So when using ctDNA and AI, we have to be cautious because there is underdiagnosis in younger patients. For instance, rectal bleeding will be misdiagnosed as having hemorrhoids rather than a colorectal cancer. And we know today that young onset colorectal cancer is on the high about the age of 40 years. Another example is trisomy 8. How do you interpret that? Common AIs will say that this is pathognomonic of myelodysplastic syndrome, but the actual thing is shown on the right side. It could be associated with inflammation, and it is not myelodysplastic syndrome unless the bone marrow aspiration also shows dysplasia in the cells. So there is also clinical trial bias because patients participating in trials are healthier, are from the urban areas and more health aware. So extrapolating data from a clinical trial over the general population may sometimes be inappropriate. So earlier this year, we published this rapid incorporation of technology in healthcare management. Is it a blessing or a curse? And I have tried to show you in my presentation the curse side of it or the bias side of it, of how we can get carried away or misdirected when we are not using it appropriately. So AI and cancer research, on the left side is the myth, on the right side is the fact. And this really summarizes objectivity, ctDNA detection, role of AI, and trials versus reality. Now, patients have started using AI with malified intentions. So they upload the discharge summary and then say, can you find out what are the deficiencies of care in the discharge summary? And the AI use algorithmic flagged information that is amplified and legally reframed that can cause problems for us doctors. And this is a publication that we did way back when the first judge all over the world, this judge is from Colombia, and the first judge, Judge Juan Manuel Garcia, not only used ChatGPT, but in his dictation of the order, he specified that I have used ChatGPT, and on the basis of that, I have put the judgment. And on the bottom right hand side, you see High Court of Mumbai, where the judge is saying all of us have suffered at the hands of doctors. So why am I saying this is that judges are often biased and against doctors. So this is a case of 2024, your Uttar Pradesh State Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, and an award of 1.72 crores of compensation was given. And what was the reason? The reason was that the consent was not taken properly, so it was not a valid consent. And ladies and gentlemen, not being a valid consent means that the doctor has intentionally assaulted the patient. An intentional assault means it's a non-bailable offense. The concerned doctor can be put immediately behind bars. So I would like to end in the last two slides on a humorous note. You can see this is a Tesla truck. It does not require a petrol pump. It does not cause pollution. It does not require Google Maps, right? It is self-driven. So it knows where my home is, it knows where my place of work is, and it can go from one to the other while I sit, relax, take a nap, and reach my destination. But I think Tesla has infringed on a copyright that was existing in India since centuries, and that is the bullock cart. Farmers used to relax on the bullock cart. It did not require any petrol. It did not cause pollution. There were no Google Maps, and the bullocks would go from home to the farm and back by themselves. So, with that, I thank you very much for a patient hearing. Thank you.
As usual, scintillatingly beautiful and very well illustrated, Dr. Purvish.
Thank you.
Wonderful to hear you again. I didn't miss even a single word for fear of just missing what I might miss actually. So, superb. Uh, how do we detect the bias in AI when we are going through a recommendation, or maybe you look it up in a clinical decision making on the spot? What should I do for this patient?
So
How
this
do
is
I
a
detect the
this is a very
bias?
important question that you have asked. So the greatest version of bias is hallucination, right? That it decides to give you an answer which is not based on any publication or any reference, and it is just making up the whole thing. And
But it
all
can
of
make up references also. This is what I
exactly,
was worried
exactly,
about.
absolutely. So I did not have time to show that example. When I asked for some of my own references on geriatric oncology, it fabricated 3 references and showed. So you are absolutely right. So this is like, our doctors protecting ourselves against HIV or communicable diseases. Every patient we think is a potential person that we have to have universal safeguard. So also, whenever we use AI, we will have to have this mindset that we have to question the answer, and if it does not fit into the right clinical context, then we have to take it with a pinch of salt, or we have to cross verify with PubMed or other genuine references.
My major fear is that if I make a mistake using AI, even though it was biased,
Yes,
it is not the AI or the software which is going to be, I mean, found fault with, but
right.
the doctor who has taken recourse to using the AI and made a clinical decision. This is my major worry, because the fellow who has a patent and has earned $1 million using selling the AI tool in clinical decision making is
Yes,
left scot-free, while you and I might be the only people who will be penalized for it.
you are absolutely right. And we can take a real live example. There are at least 7 accidents which involved self-driven cars by Tesla. Okay, 3 of them were fatalities, where either the driver or somebody on the road died. In none of the cases have the courts ever found that there was a fault with Tesla or the software or the hardware, that is the car. And ultimately, it was always passed on like human error. And this is all we also know, even before the AI era, we also know that whenever there's a commercial plane that crashes, it is the pilot that is blamed, and because he is not alive to defend himself, human error is passed away. So I think this is a very, very important and a medico-legal, consequence that we have to face as doctors, and we have to be extremely cautious about it. But I don't see a simple solution to that.
I fully agree. So I also found that you have shown a little bit of cloud. Um that cloud has found a lot of holes, and in legacy software, if you want to label it as legacy,
Correct.
I don't know whether it has found, but it has refused to put it in public domain, and it has actually given it to several consortia, which it called consortia, who might be able to do their own homework with their own software and come out with what can be done. So that means you are actually not being very transparent in what you're doing.
So
And
very true.
it might turn up that there's a lot of loopholes in many things that which we do. Another very important feature I was reading this morning was that it is very difficult for an AI program to be made to unlearn what mistakes it has learned. So just like humans, I feel it doesn't unlearn, I believe. So even if you dissect the data and present it differently, if it once did a mistake, it loves to do the mistake again and again. So I think it's not going to go away that easily. We can't wish it away that it won't make mistakes.
So
Sir, there was a
one
question very interesting that came. Patients are trusting more of AI than doctors. Is it because doctors are spending less time? Very interesting comment in the YouTube post. I'm just saying that.
yeah. I mean, this is a
How to address that, sir?
this is a very common phenomenon. If you look in metro cities like Mumbai, almost 70% of patients will come with some AI evaluation beforehand, and many of them come with sheets of printouts, and then they expect the doctors to go through all of them. So it is a problem that is going to keep on increasing, and we have to find a way of solving this and gaining the confidence back from the patients, so that they have more trust in us, which they should, but then they are forgetting that.
Yeah, you're right. So if AI makes the decision and AI prescribes a treatment, uh, should we accede to the patient's request, or should we say, uh, no, I would like to, I beg to differ with the AI's conclusions, and I would like to treat otherwise?
So there has to be a justification for making the whatever we are saying, correct?
Yeah, basically, you are backing up yourself from whatever clinical recommendation guidelines you have.
All right. So and that is very, very important. If we don't do that, then we can't solve the
Yeah, you're
problem,
right.
right?
We are not likely to solve that problem at all. Yeah.
Sir, there was one more question. Are
Ah,
there any subtle clues where we can see that this particular model or AI is more biased to us? Because in your examples, you showed too many things. Is there any simple test I can do before I start trusting it? Again,
so
question asked by Dr. Vishnu or someone in the chat box.
so this is a very important question. I have been asking that question to myself also, and I find that it is not very easy. So if I'm using Chat GPT, I will cut and paste and put it on Claude AI to verify whether it is right or not. Or if I'm using Gemini, then I will go and put it on Shravan of Indus to verify it is there or not. So if there is any doubt, or if it, as a general rule, if there is an output from one AI tool, I would suggest that you copy and paste it to another AI tool and ask the question, can you correct this or find errors in this? And that might be a good way of looking at
Great.
Yeah. So, because our patients, our politicians, our lawyers and judges are likely to use AI
it. Yes,
a lot more than perhaps we ourselves might use, I think we need to be very familiar with their pitfalls as well as their strengths. Am I right?
oh, absolutely right.
Yeah, yes. I have not yet seen a judge saying, instead of a 40-year backlog of cases of some 40,000 sitting with each judge, let an AI app decide their judgments and I will endorse them.
Absolutely not, because they are worried about their own future as well, right?
You're absolutely right. Okay, right. So, do we have some simple advice for patients who want to use AI? Or is that simple, small lettered rider in italics at the bottom, AI can make mistakes, is sufficient?
So I think this is something that I have worked on, and I have got 4 checklists. Whenever a person, where a patient party or a relative comes with AI printouts, I ask them the following questions. And I don't have the checklist in front of me, so I might have missed something. But the first thing I ask is, what is the prompt that you have used? Okay. The language of the prompt, how detailed was the prompt? Did it include the age and the gender of the patient? Did it include history of comorbidities and polypharmacy? Because all that will take into consideration. Then I ask them whether they use the free version of the AI or a pro version of the AI. Then I ask them, have you cross verified from what is the output from one AI with another AI? Then I ask, in your specific patients, do you know what were the inclusion or the exclusion criteria used by the trial whose data you are quoting? And very often the patient, because of XYZ, is not actually fulfilling the inclusion criteria for that patient, or is fulfilling the exclusion criteria. So that way I raise a doubt in their mind whether their output is actually matching for their patient's concern. And I think that way they start understanding that we know AI, we have looked at AI in a much more systematic way, and we are in a better position to, evaluate what is the need of the patient beyond what AI has told them. So this is what I try to do.
One last question. Are there
Yes.
any norms for governments or professional bodies to evaluate and say this AI conforms to certain standards and hence it is quite reliable both for clinical decision making and for patient searching?
So all the standards that I know of are related to what technology is being used
So
and
that is
how
the
they,
business angle.
and how confidentiality is maintained. It has no standards as far as what is the authenticity of the training and whether that training is up to date. An AI tool that was made 1 month ago may not be up to date with what is the current scenario. As you know, 17 articles in the English language are published on prospective clinical trials every day. And unless the AI tool is dynamically web scraping or actually looking at them, updating itself on a daily basis, it will be outdated. So these are some concerns which have not been addressed in whatever guidelines or recommendations governments have made.
So that means they are free to be marketed and probably don't require any licensing agency. Am I right?
So if you look at what is
Unlike a,
available today,
yeah.
ChatGPT or Meta AI or Gemini, they don't require a license. That is one thing. Second thing is they are not marketing, because they are collecting the information at the back end and using it commercially for other things. Today, AI knows more about myself than I know. And many people have started using a prompt that on the basis of what you know about me, please generate a caricature. And it is very frightening as to how accurate that caricature is. You understand, na?
Yeah.
So we have to be, conscious of the fact that AI knows every minor details about our life, and they will never forget it. So that is a problem.
I give my example, Purvish sir.
Yes.
So I keep on just writing the summaries using AI.
Okay.
And one of my far relative just say that I'm Dr. ABS Suresh, logging from different thing. Now give the summary, it gave the very same way I was giving. Actually, it is scary.
It is
Absolutely.
scary.
I mean,
It is
I
scary.
don't know how far it is good or bad.
So
Very true.
we now have software as a medical device and software as a medical tool as well as software as probably a treatment. How do we go forward from that? So all three are available. Software can be a medical device. It can be a medical tool like a decision tool. And of course, software can itself be a treatment. They are trying to say, tell the world that we can prevent suicides, we can prevent drug addiction, we can prevent many types of unsavory behaviors. This is what it says.
So I think Dr. Suresh, with his 20 plus patents, is the right person to answer this question.
No, sir, it's not like that, sir.
Hats off to you here. You have done a great job of developing, and utilizing AI. And
Yes, sir.
absolutely, you know much better as to what is the consequence of all that.
Raghu
But
sir,
it
you
is,
know it, sir.
yeah.
The thing is, class A, B, C, D, sir, it follows the same as any other medical device. Whether it is going to potentially intervene the outcome of the disease, or it is going to be assistive, or it is going to be informative, like either thermometer or glucometer, or probably intraoperative devices. The same classes are applied for all the three categories, whatever you told, sir. And this is based upon the label indication that we go. Am I right, sir, Raghu sir? I mean, you are the teacher who taught us this also.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any more questions in the chat box? I can't see.
Lot are there, sir, but they are all around the same thing, sir.
Same theme is same.
Yeah, theme is same, sir. Thematic is same. So I think
So
it's a
thank you
great
so much
class.
Thank
for a
you very much.
wonderful lecture.
I had a
And
great,
I hope
I had-
everybody will have access to the
of course,
recording
of course.
and Wonderful again, Suresh, and thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you, sir.
Purvish. Once again, thanks to the National Board of Examination in Medical Sciences for this wonderful effect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much, sir.
Bye-bye.
See you all on the next session, which is going to be black box versus white box. Going to be a bit more theoretical, but please do attend if you are interested to learn about how to differentiate black box and white box if you really want to use it in the module 14. Thank you very much,
Thank
Dr. Purvish, sir, and Dr.
Thank you.
Raghu, sir,
Bye-bye.
for your valuable time and great information for the audience. Thank you, and
Bye-bye.
VMS, over to you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Purvish sir. Thank you, Dr. Suresh sir. Thank you, Dr. Raghunadharao sir, for this wonderful session. Thank you, all of you. Thank you so much.